Rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez, absent. Councilman Cypress.
Here.
Councilman Larka.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation of the exits in the front and the rear and electronic device. Please put it on vibrate. First item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing for the town budget for 2023. I waive the reading of the public hearing notice, and so move to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone here this evening to speak to the town budget for 2023? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we haven't had a work session in a while, so we got 3 items tonight. First item will be temporary signs discussion. You have it here as part of your backup. I'll let someone take a lead. Let me give you a little background on this. I think it was probably 7 to 8 years ago, there was an issue here in the town where someone had sued the town over, signage. And the bottom line was we had to revamp the code. It was revamped, and I guess there's still a few issues here and there. So we'll discuss those issues and see if we can improve upon what's already there.
Thanks, Tony. So, yeah, I had asked you to put this on the agenda. I have 2 concerns. One, I think, is very simple.
Can you hear him talking okay?
Okay. The one thing that I think we could all agree on doesn't really serve a purpose is in 13875C8, the stickers with the name and address and phone number. Since temporary signs are only allowed on private property, it seems pointless to require them to put a sticker on their own sign in their own yard.
I would agree with that.
So I'd like to see us
Number 8.
get rid of number 8.
Now, Rome's not going to be built. We'll discuss it tonight.
Yeah, of course.
We'll speak to Michael Levine and whatever. We'll have to have a public hearing because we're making somewhat of a substantial change, and there'll be a public hearing on it again. Okay, next.
And then it seems like recently there's been a lot of chatter about, it's political season, but about signs being removed from what residents feel are their private property. Seems like we're enforcing more than we have in the past, and I think it falls under 13875C2, the 15-foot from the edge of a paved or unpaved roadway and/or the private property tax parcel lot line, whichever is less. And I think we might be using the 15 feet a little bit more than we should, and I think if a resident has a sign on clearly what they intend to be their own property in front of their house, I don't think we should be taking it, unless there's a sight line or safety or some other concern.
Well, I do agree with you because, again, when you're riding along and various things, matter of fact, we have Municity, and I try to line up to see if we could use that as a guide. Now, on the back road, Tenetta Lake Road, there was a bunch of signs, but they were on a stone wall. So once they were on the stone wall, they made it illegal. But let's say it was stone wall. The road there, I didn't measure how wide that road was, but between the edge of the road and the stone wall is less than 2 feet. And I had basically said to the, zoning enforcement, if it's between the guardrail or stone wall and a road, and it's less than 15 feet, it should be removed. But if it's 2 feet and it's on the opposite side, whatever. But then that's being arbitrary and capricious, and I'm hearing that's a difficulty. Now, that person's property is 2.5 feet off the road. So 15 feet doesn't work. And I just don't know how we can put a number in there and have it work for all properties. There's just no way. Now, I measured in front of my house because I had to put up a fence about a year ago and I had to get a variance for it. So my property line, the road in front of my house is 24 feet. Center line then would be 12 foot. And from the end of the road to my property line is 12 feet. And I have a fence. Now, I mow across the front of it. You go down 312. There's a lot of ones. And the smaller the lot, the more they're closer to the road. I mean,
So,
big
so
time.
your fence is 12 feet off the road.
12 feet
If
off
you-
the road,
If you put a sign between the fence and the road,
illegal.
would you want the town to take your sign?
No, not if I maintain it.
Right.
But
So,
how
that's
do, then we have to
everybody's
ask, Will,
concern.
how do you do that? How do you do some and not others?
Well, I don't know that it's some and not others, you know. I don't want the town to look the way it used to look. I think our town looks the best in Putnam County during election season, but a sign in front of someone's own house where they mow and clean and plant flowers, we shouldn't be touching.
I agree. So how do we do it? Eric, what'd you say?
I was just going to say, last year, there were some signs that looked like they were on public property, and I reported them to the building department. I was told that I would have to get a survey to prove that they were not on private property, and it just feels like things have completely flipped the other way, that we're now assuming that it's not private property, and we need a survey to prove that it is. So I just agree with everything Eric said. I just want to point that out.
Will,
I
what,
think what you're saying, though, is it would be the town's burden of proof to, if they were to remove a sign,
Right.
it's really the town's burden of proof that it's in the public right-of-way.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
So as I talked to the supervisor at length about this yesterday, if somebody were to complain that you took a sign off the private property, it would be our burden to show that it was not on private property.
Correct.
So, and the problem is that different roads have different layouts. Different highways have different widths. A Newtown highway would have a 50-foot right-of-way. That's how big Newtown highways are built as standard.
Mhm.
So from the center line of that highway, presumably it's 25 feet on either side. The pavement may not be 25 feet, but the right-of-way extends. Pavement generally is about 25 to 30 feet. I wish we had Mike Burdick here. He would give us a little bit more information on that.
well, I did ask him, and it does vary. Like I said, in front of my house, it's 24 feet, and it's around 25 feet is a roadbed generally. But when you go to something
And your
like,
road was probably built in the 50s.
yeah, and Tenette Lake Road is even smaller, Cobb Road is smaller.
Right.
And then you get up to, not Twickenham's not our road, but Star Ridge Road, much wider as
Right.
well. So
And
no,
of
one
course,
size does not
Star Ridge
fit
Road
all.
is a county highway. Is
Star
it
Ridge?
not? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
No.
it's not. We just paved it.
That's ours,
Yeah.
Star Ridge? Star
Star
Ridge
Ridge.
Road?
yeah.
This is the one that goes,
By Dunkin' Donuts.
yeah, that's a county.
That's
I always thought that was a
I think
county
we
highway.
just paved
But
it.
in any event,
It's ours.
Yeah.
But they vary. State
Yeah.
road, a county road, they probably vary as well. I mean,
but Star Ridge Road has been there since the flood. I mean, so it was a mapped, laid out highway going back to, the 1800s.
okay, so what number can we use to try to, I mean, I think 15 feet is reasonable, and we don't always take out a ruler and measure.
But
but-
you said you wouldn't want them to take a sign from in front of your house.
I wouldn't put one in front of my house, but
Okay.
besides that, I mean, no, if a person maintains it, and you've got residential areas, I mean, 312, well, as you're going up toward the school on the right-hand side, there's quite a few residential areas there, and they mow right up to the road and keep it nice and neat.
Right, and
did-
one of the residents that reached out to me has a row of hedges in front of his house. It's probably 8 feet from the pavement, and it's grass and maintained between the hedges and the road. Obviously, if he puts a sign on the other side of the hedges, it
You're not
serves
gonna
no
see it.
purpose, so he puts it in front of the hedges. I mean, I don't think we should take that sign.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well,
How-
that's what I'm looking
Well,
for.
So how do
Well,
we deal with that person, or even mine? If I put mine there, similar to that other individual, what do we do?
But
Now-
in the case, like you know your lot line, okay? So maybe in your case, since we know the lot line, maybe you don't get to have a sign.
You know-
But this other person's sign, I don't know that we reviewed his site plan or survey before we made a determination to take his sign and throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, I mean, one of my questions on this is the enforcement aspect of it, and I've understood it, but
That's right, you used to take signs, didn't you?
but the thing is, what is the authority granting us to confiscate personal, you know,
I think
private property.
I could answer that question. I think that there was amendments made to the trash and litter provisions of the town code that said that if, you know, signs are left in the highway right-of-way,
but was
that they
that-
could be summarily removed as
Was that
litter.
under the old code, though?
I didn't- I
And
couldn't
is
find it in the
still tied
new
into
code,
that?
but-
Because
Well, that was supposed to be
I
part
do
of
recall
this.
that, and that was where the authority seemed to be granted, but I don't think it's still in there.
No?
I
Then it
reviewed
should
the
be-
section
it should
on
be
litter.
replaced.
It's under litter.
So,
I couldn't
you
find
know,
it.
because otherwise I would say, you know, for most enforcement purposes, we usually issue a notice of violation.
But the sad thing about notice of violation, issue a notice of violation today, it takes, they got a month to correct it, then it takes 2 months to get to court, and the signs up.
Which raises another question.
Pardon?
When this code was redrafted, the definition of temporary sign, it says, a sign that's meant to be temporary. That's not a satisfactory definition. Now, we used to have a code provision that said temporary signs cannot be up for more than a certain period of time. And I think we've got to reinstate that. Because otherwise, you know, if somebody puts up a, quote, temporary sign on their property, said, well, I only plan on being there temporary. 6 years later, it's still temporary.
It's 30 days,
Where does this say that?
C6.
Yeah, but the problem there is enforcement. I mean, I just put it up yesterday, but it's been up there 6 months. I mean, you have to go by, write yourself a little note, today's date, one that you saw, but it's already been up for 10 weeks. It becomes very
Well,
onerous.
it is going to
I
become
think
a
if it's
problem.
truly on private property, I don't know that you
They
can enforce
moved,
30
they
days
obviously
anyway.
moved this into the other section from the definition section.
But
But
Well, did you hear
the
that?
point I'm trying to make is that if that were the case, a temporary sign could be up for 30 days. It used to say, you know, 28 days or 30 days before
The election.
an event.
An
event.
It didn't say elect, it
Yeah.
was an event that it was advertising and had to be removed within 5 days after the event. I don't know where that language went. And I think that may be one way to, like, for instance, if you have, we'll use a political sign as an example. So you can put them up 30 days in advance. You should have a time where you have to take it down.
Yeah, and I agree with Will. I mean, tying the litter portion into it made it easier because even in the public right away for, you know, stuff that's obviously public property, you know, I think my complaint over a year ago when we were first looking at this was, you know, when you have out of county or out of area events that just leave their signs behind, I mean, this was, a lot of that was the purpose to this whole operation, so we could clean up the, you know, the town, and not just for political season, just year round, because
And it's
you have
demo. It's
someone has a tag sale, because they're moving, they clearly don't care if they pick up their sign anymore after their tag sale is over. I mean, a good person would, but, you know, for the people that, you know, left their tag sale behind, their signs around, you know, there's no one coming to get those except the town, you know, and you know, we need to do something about that.
yeah, I mean, I have no issue with those, and I think we do a good job of cleaning those up, and, you know, they don't belong at all, but
Yeah, I mean, it's
when,
almost
when
like,
someone
you know,
has a sign in their lawn, as you do, and as I do,
yeah.
I don't think we should grab it.
And Eric, that brings us back to the problem that created this problem, is that we had different standards for different signs based on content. And that's where the federal court ruled that our code was constitutionally defective because we were regulating based on content.
Oh, I totally understand that, well, and I know I'm using political signs as an example because it's the season, but, I mean, if I wanted to put a tag sale here today
Or
sign,
real estate.
you know,
Real
Yeah.
estate signs. are
and that's
almost
another
all-
thing, I mean, every real estate sign in this town is,
Yeah.
you know, illegal according to code, but, you know.
And especially when they have balloons on them, if I remember correctly from the code.
Well, there is a prohibition to balloons and streamers and all things like that.
And
but,
there's
uh,
plenty of them around
yeah.
town, but we're being aggressive with this one thing for
Well,
people's houses.
I'm going to tell you now, there's numerous signs picked up all year long. The season starts in the spring and it ends with the first snowfall. That's prime time. And the election cycle's that much of it. All year long they're picking up. Now, there are,
Not in front of private homes.
yeah, it depends. It depends. People put them up anywhere.
I-
Not private homes, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Right,
well,
but then the
how-
only issue, every other sign is illegal.
Yeah, I
So we're
think we're
only
all
talking
agreeing.
about private property.
So what do we do here, Will? Is there some way to write that in there?
Or-
If a
or-
person maintains the property, it could be less than 15? I mean, how do you write it?
Or is it discretionary?
Well, you really can't be discretionary, theoretically, because then you would be considered imposing or enforcing your law in an arbitrary and capricious fashion.
The only reason
Say,
I,
okay, I'm gonna be discretionary because that's, Joe Schmo's house, but, John Smith over here,
the only reason I say that is just when you look at the building department, I could go outside and throw a stone and hit a house that has a violation to our code, and there's discretion on how we enforce that. Or not.
we're not talking about First Amendment, though.
Okay.
I mean, when you're talking about housing condition
Mhm.
deficiencies, it's not a First Amendment, it's not a constitutional issue.
Okay.
This is a constitutional issue.
Meaning that,
Meaning that if you're
This is more
abridging
protected.
somebody's right to free speech,
right, but I'm saying that we're taking a more aggressive stance on something that is protected by the First Amendment as opposed to things that are in our code that are not protected.
well, I think you're comparing apples and oranges, to tell you the truth.
No, like tangerines.
I don't know.
Okay,
And that, maybe it is apples and oranges, but I think it's, when you said earlier, Will, and I don't think you were really saying we should do this, but you said if somebody complains, it would be up to the town to prove them wrong. Well, I don't want to put a resident in the spot where his sign's missing and he needs to be inconvenienced to, go to the town and have them look it up. I mean,
Well, one of the suggestions I think I made early on in this prior discussion was that there be a distance used that says if it's within X amount of feet of the pavement, the presumption is that it's within the highway right-of-way. 15 feet, I don't think is fair. I personally don't. It was not the number that I came up with. And I mentioned 5 feet to Tony, and he thought that was,
Too little.
too liberal.
yeah, if I had to pick a number, I'd be
I mean,
at 5, but
well, 5 feet, you're gonna have them all over the road.
in front of somebody's house.
Well,
Well, what if it's in, it doesn't have to be in front of somebody's house. If it's 5 feet off
But-
Route 22,
But
But it's private property
Right,
there.
the property owner has to be okay with it.
but who pulls the sign? Property owners.
who's
aren't
gonna,
pull it, they
yeah,
don't
who's
live
gonna,
there.
like, for instance, the old golf dome property. Do you know who owns that? And how are you gonna go check to see if somebody's,
So what's the difference if it's 5 or 15 at that point?
it isn't. There isn't any difference.
Right, so you could put a sign at the golf dome and assume that the property owner is okay with it.
15
But once
feet
you go
off the
5
pavement.
feet, you're gonna see them all along Route, you're gonna see them everywhere. 5 feet. 15?
I'm just saying that would be a presumption.
Can
I mean,
you,
you could make it 10 feet. I mean, it's still a matter of enforcement and not being accused of being arbitrary and capricious in your,
Well-
in the enforcement of the statute as written.
could it be in front of private residential property only? 5 feet?
Then are we saying that commercial property owners can't exercise their First Amendment right?
No, we can, it's 15 feet.
Because of the setback requirements?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
15
Will,
feet in front of commercial and 5 feet in front of private residential.
that doesn't make it arbitrary, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, as long as all commercial properties are treated the same and all residential properties are treated the same.
Now,
But
just down
still, I
the,
think you're gonna find that even if you have it 15 feet on, or like if it's a state highway, you have a 15 feet setback. If somebody's gonna come along and say, well, my property line is not 15 feet from the edge of Route 22, it's 5 feet. So I'm gonna put my sign right here. And it's gonna be up to us, if you wanna enforce this, to prove them wrong.
Just like it is now, but we're not proving them wrong, we're just assuming they're wrong.
Yeah, that is a problem. I mean, the presumption that, I've been hearing a lot of anecdotal stories about people's signs that have been pulled and thrown in the trash, and, you know, theoretically or even actually, I can't tell you whether that was, there's, in the code that's currently written about, it says 15 feet off the property line, or off the highway, or the person's property line, whichever is less. Unless we have an idea of where the person's property line is, it makes it very difficult to enforce without upsetting someone.
And someone brought up real estate signs. I mean, I guess we could have, but it feels like we never pull a real estate sign.
Well, we
And
never have,
and
and
they're
I don't think we
generally-
ever would,
They're
but
generally up over 30 days. So how is
they
that
are.
not
That's
arbitrary?
why, when I was originally drafting this code, and I don't know why this ended, it was like, it should have been provided that it stayed up with 30 days, or, like, for instance, with real estate signs, once it's sold, the sign should come down. Unfortunately, they
I
don't.
think Eric
But
brought
they
that
don't.
up at last year's meeting. He said the closing could be the event, you know.
Correct. But then again, you could have a house, it's on the market for a year.
Right, so my point, and I'm not picking on real estate signs, my point is that how is it not arbitrary to leave real estate signs but take political signs? That seems like we're going down the path that got us in trouble last time.
Potentially, yes. Potentially, yes. And I tried to, back in the day, tried to insert language. I think we did have this language at one point in time that it regulated real estate signs by saying that they could just say for sale by broker. And I know that other communities have that, and it's apparently never been challenged, but, and so it's not a, sort of free advertising for the real estate agency. I know that the town of Bedford has got that regulation. I think maybe Pound Ridge has it. But, and we did have it, but it was never enforced. And people just put out their signs, Century 21, whatever their trade dress was, they would put it on their sign. And we never enforced it. And now we have an entirely different code, which can't differentiate between one type of sign over another. They're all temporary signs. So I think we probably have to, in order to make this work, we have to take a better or harder look at how to define a temporary sign.
If we, just back to my point, if we did 5 feet in front of private residential property and 15 feet in front of commercial, does that solve 90% of this? And then we can see what else comes up?
We can certainly, put that up, run it up the flagpole and see if it works. But
I think it solves a lot of my concern.
Yeah.
We strike 8, which I don't think serves any purpose. We make sure the litter part is in the code somewhere. I couldn't find it, and take a
Tony, you
stab
said
at
you saw it
that.
in the litter section? In the,
I didn't hear you say it again.
you said it was that thing about removal of signs and advertising that's in the highway right away is under the litter section? Did you say that?
Yes, it's under litter.
I
It's
looked
considered
yesterday,
litter.
I didn't see it, but I could have
Okay,
missed
well,
it.
it's
I'm just
supposed
saying,
to
let's
be.
just make sure.
I'll double check
If
it.
it's not there, we'll amend that section of the law too. I thought I remember
Yeah,
drafting that.
Michael refers to that all the time, that Michael Levine, he always refers to it as litter. So,
But
now the only thing is, there's always gonna be, again, that one person on Tenell Lake Road, their property line is 2 feet from the end, so she wouldn't be able to do it because she's 2 feet and we're gonna allow.
But if
5.
it's on
If her property line is 2 feet, she could put a sign at 2 feet.
Oh, we're gonna leave it in less?
Yeah, you have to let
You can't-
people
I don't
do it
think
on
you
their own
can-
property.
It's got to, that language about the property line has got to remain there. And we use the 5 and the 15 as you know, the residential versus commercial as a presumption, so that in the event that there is a prosecution or whatever, the burden of showing that that wasn't a violation shifts to the homeowner. That's if we issue a violation, which we never, on these things, I don't think we're gonna be issuing violations.
No.
But
The section on litter, 91-2, under definitions, A includes, and it goes down to item 4, signs, handbills, discarded reading material, newspapers, magazines, or similar paper goods.
Right, but I don't think I think the only action is a fine, not that we could take it, but I'm not a lawyer.
It also refers to.
You have to
abandonment.
put the confiscation in.
I think what you do is that you could put language in that says if those items are in the public right of way, that they can be removed by, you know.
John,
town
what's that
officials.
one?
91-2.
91-2?
Yeah, it definitely lists signs as, something that could be litter, but the way I read it, the only action we could take is fining you, not just taking it.
Which is the purpose.
See, I thought I remembered at some point in time putting language in there that said that we have that we can treat it as litter and remove it.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So.
Or cause it to be removed.
Okay. I'll ask Michael Levine. I'll share our comments here this evening. I'll talk with Will. I won't guarantee it for the next meeting, but possibly the meeting thereafter, and redraft it. We'll discuss it as a board and then put it out to public hearing again.
Okay, so remove 8, 5 and 15, and check the litter portion, right?
Yep.
Okay.
5 for residential,
Yes,
Right?
yes,
and 15 is for
commercial.
commercial. Now, what about vacant land? I mean,
Well, it's zoning is really
okay,
If
so
it's
we have,
zoned
now we have the
residential,
the zone.
if it's zoned residential, then the 5 foot
Okay.
would, if it's zoned commercial, then the 15 foot would.
I don't know if we have to run it that far down. But only if it becomes an issue, right? I mean, we have, like I was saying, we have plenty of laws on the books that we don't go around and, run them for every detail.
It just, I don't know, it's a shame we have to go through this much work. I mean, the sign law was in effect last year. I think the way we enforced this season last year was fine.
But there wasn't as many signs, I mean, I'm telling you.
I don't know
think
if this is
they've never-
appropriate.
I know
but-
that there was over 150.
Another thing, another item to
But they all
the,
did it 15, they all.
No, they didn't.
the
Oh, some
item
did.
No.
Didn't you?
prohibition
No.
on
You didn't go out
litter.
and tell people, keep them 15 feet
No.
off the road?
My own signs weren't 15 feet off the road, they'd be in the woods.
He violated the law?
So, I mean, there is provision in the litter section under H, signs or posters advertising an event shall be removed by the persons or organizations responsible for the erection of such signs or posters within 10 days after the happening of the event. And then there is penalties for offenses, so I don't know if that's ever been pursued with people leaving up signs, if you can identify who that person was. Clearly, I mean, in the political thing, you could identify a candidate or a group of candidates.
But you
and
can't
say,
prove that there was
"Can you
the
pick up your
candidate that
signs?"
actually put the sign up.
Yeah, but the point is, any sign that you described is illegal anyway.
Mm.
So it would never have the opportunity to be up 30 days. It should just be removed right away, because it's in the right way or whatever.
Mm.
Or it's on a telephone pole.
Yeah.
Telephone poles come
Yeah.
down,
Or
that's state
intersection.
law.
What's that?
State law, they don't allow the
State law
poles.
does dictate that, actually, public service law.
Yeah, can't put them on
But
poles.
in any event, Tony, you mentioned before that there was some people had placed their signs on a rock wall.
Yeah, and that's in here.
I don't see rock wall. I see a rock.
It says rock, yeah.
I see a
It
fence.
says utility poles, rocks, or other parts of natural landscape.
Temporary, yeah.
I don't know, is a stone wall natural landscape?
No. But I mean, if, it's not like you're affixing it to the stone wall, you're sticking it on top of the stone wall, right? Isn't that,
Yeah.
I don't
but-
see that as a violation. As a matter of fact, I think, I look at stone walls as in many cases, an indication of where a property line is.
How do you define a fix? I hate to say when,
Well, permanently. I mean, if somebody were to, like, I think what that was meant to apply to was somebody painting a sign on a rock
Okay, we'll look at
or
that.
attaching something to a
And
fence.
that wouldn't be temporary. Well, the fence would, but paint.
Okay, I'll talk to Michael, we'll run it by you before we bring it back to make sure we got some of the kinks out and then see if we get the rest of the kinks out. And in the meantime, your recommendation, I told him what the recommendation was.
Well, I think, you know, you have to use some common sense. And in situations like, you know, certainly at this time of the year, that you're gonna see a proliferation of these things, and obviously, you can tell pretty clearly when something is in the right of way. I mean, obviously, I'll use an example that I talked with you yesterday about, and that is that little triangle of dirt at the end of Doansburg Road. I mean, there's always stuff being parked there. That's clearly in the right of way.
And that little lot right across the street, that's what started this whole thing way back when someone put about, had to be 30 signs, all the same saying, and he had 30, and then someone else put in 5. There had to be 70 signs in that little area.
And last year, there was a sign there that Eric reported, and we couldn't get it removed.
I was told I had to get a
Wait,
survey.
where?
I have,
In that,
In
where?
that lot.
in that piece of property, specifically.
Write the name down, what it was.
It's a year ago, doesn't matter.
But no, because the same person continues to do it to this day. If you're,
The same person's not gonna put a sign there again.
well, there's one that's there all the time.
I did,
Hasn't been lately, though, we have finally nailed it down, maybe.
I think we're all saying we like the sign code. It just needs to, I liked how it was last year, even though it hadn't changed more than this year. And I like that a lot of the signs are cleaned up and it doesn't look carpet bombed with signs, so.
Okay, we'll come back with it. Okay, next one, outdoor dining. John, you had asked for that.
Yes.
Hold
I-
on, let me just get one thing here, section. Okay. This is this one. So, here's for Will. I found it easier to do it this way than put it into the package. Michelle. You. And don't lose these, I don't want to have to do this again, it's a lot of work. And we're gonna be talking about it a bit. I got one here for Edwin, which I'll put in his box. Okay, I spoke to the building inspector. He has absolutely no problem with allowing outdoor signage, not outdoor restaurants.
Dining.
Outdoor dining. As you know, at the last 2 pages, there's a resolution we passed back in 2020 during COVID, which we temporarily lifted the rules. There's no problem with this being done, but they have to go through a site plan approval. Now, previous to the COVID time, they would have to go back to the planning board. They all have existing, whatever the restaurant is or whatever the location is, that parcel has gone through a site plan review at some point in time. And all they would have to do is go in and amend it. Now, we did it then because it takes maybe 2 to 4 months to go through a planning process, and we eliminated, but they can do it. So is there a problem?
I just, you know, it was relayed to me by certain people that they felt, and it may be just perception-based, that it was very difficult to get a permit for outdoor dining in the town of Southeast.
It is, depending on the location. Now, some restaurants have convenient spaces. I'm not gonna say where, whatever, but some are better than others.
Right.
Now, if you're right on Route 22 and a car can come along, if you're in a busy parking lot, you have to
Right,
have
and-
certain
and
regulations. that-
One of those restaurants did protect that seating area
Yeah.
appropriately because it got signed off by the building inspector. And you know, I think it's just that maybe people weren't aware because, like, I don't know if it was encouraged in you know, previous times, such as, hey, you need to protect this. You could use concrete jersey barriers, you know, to do this and facilitate. I think also it was based on occupancy, some related to their septic, so they couldn't expand the seating too
Right.
much based on
And-
Well, there's also a concern with what our parking requirements are.
Right.
If you're expanding the number of tables that you can, you're going to increase the number of people that are there. And generally, a lot of these situations that were going on in the town, and this really have to put it into context. It was because of the pandemic.
Agreed.
That, you know, people couldn't get together indoors, and these restaurants were dying. So we did emergency actions to allow for these exterior dining, provided there was proper safety protocols. But if they're looking to expand or permanentize the outdoor dining, it really does impact their site plan. Because it could have, as you said, impacts on their septic system, if they're on a septic system. And it could also, if it's in a parking area, it could be taking away parking spots that are necessary for the number of seats in that restaurant. So they would be violating our zoning code.
So it can be done. All they have to do is go through a process. Now, the process, I'm not gonna say it's timely. I was told there's like 4 or 5 in the area that haven't. And they've 2 seats, 3 seats, 4 seats, but when they have a maximum. And then, of course, if it's a permanent structure, I mean, it changes the whole thing. So if they go back in front with amended site plan, it's possible for any restaurant. Do you think there's a need to go any further with the plan?
I think maybe part of it could be not necessarily outreach, but more of an educational thing, and saying, I'm just trying to promote better or more conducive to business in the town. So, again, it was asked of me, like, well, how come we
Well,
can't
now you
do?
can go back and tell them.
Well, I can absolutely do that, but I know like certain municipalities, like the city of White Plains, restricts like sidewalk dining to certain months of the year. I don't know if we have that in here, and I guess obviously we don't have that
Various
much.
sidewalks.
Yeah, exactly. So
And there are a couple that have it now, and, they have 2 or 3 tables out there, and again, the building inspector goes out to look, and if he doesn't feel it's a problem, and if it's a problem, he explains what it is, and they have it. So people have it full-time without that law that we have.
See, the difference is in City of White Plains, those sidewalks are owned by the City of White Plains.
Right, and they
So
gotta
literally,
do-
they should get licenses to be able to have
Right.
outdoor dining. The only outdoor dining I know around here is maybe a Italian restaurant in Lakeview Plaza, and they only do it during, a couple of tables during the good weather, and they open the doors, and, people can sit outside. Theoretically, that is a violation of that shopping center's site plan, because they don't, they didn't get approval for outdoor dining. But we don't own it, so we can't license it.
So it's possible, if anyone ever applies down to the building department, it would go through, they get turned off because you have to go through, well, why do I have to do that? Just to put a couple chairs out there. But there's a responsibility.
No, and I understand that. I mean, again, it should be, in the example of the business on 22 and 312, like it's a very busy intersection, and, protection is necessary just in case a car jumps the curb for whatever reason. So I totally understand that, I just wanted to make sure that we're,
We are.
very conducive to that type of business. If the person's able to do it based on their site plan, their septic, their protective requirements, and, I welcome them to do it, so.
Okay.
Other than site plan, there's nothing in the code that makes it harder to do outdoor dining?
Not necessarily. It depends on the location. I mean, I don't want to start naming
But
places.
there's no additional restrictions specifically on
No.
outdoor, so,
It
okay.
would
Maybe
have something to do with lot coverage. I mean,
Yep,
there's
yeah,
a
I'm fine
number
with
of
all
things
that.
that are integral to the zoning code, that if they were gonna have an area designated for outdoor dining that is considered lot coverage, and they exceed the maximum lot coverage they could have for that particular, in that particular zone, that would be a problem.
Yep, no, I'm
Just-
fine with all that. But it's nothing specific to outdoor dining,
No.
it's just the normal rules, so, okay.
Okay, next one's gonna be, discussion to amend chapter 131 Town Code, Vehicles and Traffic. Now, let me give you some more items here now. Okay. Two, three. One, two. Okay. As you know, about 2 meetings ago, we made Pugsley Road no parking. And,
Could I just interject? We didn't make it.
No,
We
no.
had a public hearing
public hearing, but
on a
we
proposed local law.
intend to make it. So, in doing some research of that, and then John O'Connor made me aware about Fields Corner Road, and going over that, I found a problem with Zimmer Road. So let me tell you what the recommendation is going to be. Now, I've lived here many, many years, and I am telling you now, I've always referred to it as Pugsley Road. I called the town highway department, spoke to Mike, the superintendent. He's been here not as long as I am, because I'm older than he is, and he never knew it was called Fields Corner Road either, although the maps do say Fields Corner Road. Now, when you came in from the Patterson side, it was called Fields Corner, and we always thought it was Pugsley Road. Now, when Mike checked his inventory, our inventory of the town forever has never identified Fields Corner Road. It was only Pugsley Road. So I'd like to make a recommendation that the road be known as Pugsley Road,
Go ahead, sorry.
as Pugsley Road. Now,
All the
with-
way to the Patterson border.
all the way to the Patterson border.
That was my question, is it going to be Fields Corner and Patterson?
It is.
It
So
is.
why wouldn't we just change it to Fields Corner the whole way?
No, there's more road in the town in southeast is Pugsley Road than there is Fields Corner.
Well, you can change any road.
You can do it any way you want.
I mean, so what happened? I mean, some MapQuest or Google Maps just arbitrarily north of the intersection of Zimmer and Pugsley, because it was extended into Patterson, they used that name,
We have no idea. And
Yeah,
you know
so-
what? I'm not gonna try to find it
but
because,
it's never been in our inventory.
never.
So then,
And Pugsley Road
But it'd be
is,
interesting to see if you look at inventories, it has distance.
yes, and Pugsley Road is Pugsley Road plus Fields Corner to the Patterson line. We measured it.
So Pugsley Road is from, when you.
312 to the Patterson line.
Okay, so that it is technically in our inventory.
No, not Fields Corner though.
Pugsley.
Not as Fields Corner, but
Pugsley
we've
Road.
called it Pugsley Road.
Yes.
But the distance from 312 to Patterson is in the highway inventory, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, so then technically, it's always been assumed to be called Pugsley
Pugsley.
Road to the
Right.
end of that road.
And we're just gonna make a I don't know how that word got there. I'm not gonna start looking because it's a lot of work just trying to find who did it and whatever. And just identify it as Pugsley Road.
But is it just MapQuest, like John said, or there's legal documents that
I
say
don't,
what's going on?
if someone wants to try to help me find them, fine, but I don't know where we're gonna find it. We don't know how it ever happened.
So any survey or whatever what does it say?
Because there's no houses after, actually, there was only 2 houses way down here on Pugsley, or 3 maybe. There was one on Barrett Road, which is now part of Interstate Logistics. There was a house out there, but that was on Barrett Road. Again, Fields Corner was never, ever identified.
If beyond the town of Southeast line is Fields Corner, and
Right.
that's gonna stay Fields Corner.
Yeah, that's town of Patterson.
But then you still have a road that's changing names halfway through.
Yeah, but that's not our fault.
Right, but couldn't we just change it to Fields Corner? So
Oh, I
it's
would
Fields.
not, no, because look at, right now, on this side here, we have a proposed ball field going in. You have Interstate Logistics, everything is Pugsley Road. All these parcels are Pugsley Road.
So you don't wanna change it because the parcel's already mapped? as
No,
Pugsley?
it's been Pugsley Road forever. Why would you, I don't know why you would change a name that's been there for 100 years or however long, and Fields Corner is all of a sudden on a map, no one knows where it came from.
It's not all of a sudden on the map, it's probably been there since time immemorial too. And you have to remember that where Zimmer comes out onto Pugsley, there used to be Barrett Road.
Is,
That
was,
that we've
Gave.
abandoned it,
Right.
and But that used to go all the way out to John Simpson Road.
That's right.
So.
But it was never, did it actually go out there? Was
Yes,
it
it
a paper,
did.
was
Yes,
it a
did. I
paper
can
road?
can
show
still
you.
see
No,
it
it was
there.
not a paper road. It was actually a traveled way.
But that was Barrett Road, there was a house on it, it was on Barrett Road.
Correct.
But there's been nothing ever on Fields Corner. So I would not do, I would do Pugsley before I do Fields Corner.
I'm just saying, when you go down a straight road and it changes names in between, I think, well, your road does, right? It's Joe's Hill, then
Well,
Federal Hill, then
it's
Joe's
Federal-
Hill.
No, it's Federal Hill from Milltown Road to the Connecticut border, and then it's Joe's Hill into Connecticut.
And then there's Joe's Hill.
Joe's Hill.
In New York.
In New York
And
is
it's
a entirely
so-
different road.
I'm aware,
And
but it's just confusing.
it is.
If you're traveling a straight road that has two names, to me, that just doesn't make sense.
But it's,
But it's funny, I mean, I don't know why, but our road has always been Federal Hill Road, and for some reason, the road in Connecticut has always been Joe's Hill Road.
Right, and it's different states, but between towns in the same county, if you have a straight road, shouldn't it have the same name on both ends?
but
theoretically, but-
Pugsley's been there is the, I think, the surviving one. So you'd want to change it to Fields Corner?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like if I live on Milltown Road. If my road was Milltown in the beginning and then Crow's Road at the end,
But nobody lives on it.
I'm quite
What?
sure,
There's nobody living on it.
but people live in Patterson on Fields
That's their-
Corner.
They live in Patterson.
look
I
at,
think what you're saying makes sense, and I can't explain it, but I prefer to leave it Pugsley. I
Okay.
think just because it's always
Yeah.
Pugsley in our town, so.
Well,
Are you saying that
let's
we
throw
should concede to
another,
Patterson and
no.
change it because of them?
There's absolutely no
No,
reason why
I
we
don't.
can't
I want
adopt
no
a
name.
resolution
Exactly.
that says
So.
that the road currently known as Pugsley Road and portion of it is known as Fields Corner Road
Erroneously.
shall be, from this point forward, from the end of Route 312
To
to
the
the
Patterson line.
Patterson line shall be known as Pugsley Road.
that's what I recommend.
That's very easily done. And you
Sounds
don't
good
really
to
have
me.
to adopt any local laws or anything. You do it
No.
by resolution.
Okay, I recommend we do that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
But
You're a loser.
No.
it may not be a bad
I'm
idea.
gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna find you another road that's similar, and I think it's wrong.
I think-
Tenetta Lake Road.
Yeah, it's
I
ridiculous.
mean, it's crazy. You come up.
That's what I'm
it
saying.
goes-
We have an opportunity to avoid crazy.
Oh, no. Look it. The
Tenna
road,
Lake Road into North Bristol Road. It's
How about,
Tenna Lake
uh,
Road up to Blackberry.
yeah, it
How
doesn't make
about,
sense.
How about Welfare
But,
Road?
but that's, yeah,
How
I'll
about
change it.
Welfare Road? There turns into, what's the name of the road in Patterson? It's the same, Jasper. Road.
Jasper.
Yeah.
Another one, that's it, you lose.
But just because we're all saying that that's ridiculous, but we're using that as an example, as a precedent to continue to do it.
No, we're not doing it.
Oh,
Well, look, Tenant Lake, you can do that because you're gonna change numerous parcels. That's big. There's nothing out there. If you make it Pugsley, it's Pugsley. Now wait for the next one. You ready for the next one?
Another item that
thought this was
I've
an
come
easy one.
across is some people can, erroneously call it, instead of Fields Corner Lane, they call it Fields Lane. And then it confuses people with Fields Lane, over by Turk Hill. So that's another problem with it.
Okay.
So
Here's another problem. Why we're fixing this road. Now, back in the old days, before 84, or was it, what is that, 684?
That's
84.
84.
I-84, before I-84 came through. Zimmer Road was on 312, it came up, went across, and came out onto Fields Corner Lane. No, actually, Pugsley Road.
Pugsley Road at the corner of Fields Corner Lane.
Now, with this map that I prepared here for you, okay, now the highway intersects it. Now, this Zimmer Road has to be changed here in the town of Southeast. Why? Because we have two Zimmer Roads in the town of Southeast. You have one here and one there. And what makes it even worse, there's gonna be ball fields in this section here, and on Zimmer Road, we have ball fields. So a guy is calling 911, it's an emergency, his son's really hurt bad, whatever, daughter, whatever, on Zimmer Road at the ball field. And then the ambulance goes out and they go to the wrong Zimmer Road. So this little stretch, which is, I forgot how many feet, it's not big, and it leads to a 10-acre parcel owned by the
county.
now, okay? And the recommendation is to change this portion of Zimmer Road to something. Now, I like 10-acre lane, because it's 10 acres, it's always been 10 acres, but you can call it anything you want. call it a lane, because that's usually the type of thing. So this Zimmer should be changed while we're changing Pugsley at the same time. Would that require a public hearing too?
I think we should have public hearings on both, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
It's not, but it's not a local law, because that's not the way we.
Now, this affects nobody. This Zimmer Road on this portion here affects really nobody except for that one parcel, which is like almost no man's land.
Well, Interstate Logistics backs up to it too. I mean, they own the property that is,
Yeah, but they're on the opposite side of the road.
no, they own all this, don't they?
No,
Where?
they own this bottom corner here.
Interstate, yeah.
They only
owns-
own
who
this.
That's where the ball fields
That'll
are
be
going.
the sports.
We own both sides of this little.
Oh, we do? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
They own this one down here.
They own the one that's out, goes out to 312.
I think we should call it Hay Lane.
Someone else said that too. Hey, wait,
Hey, wait, there you go.
ain't working.
Well,
So-
when Lois Zutel was the supervisor, she wanted to make a road, Stevens Road. And her suggestion was Welfare Road, to change it to Stevens Road, because it connected Patterson to Southeast. And I talked to my dad about it, he goes, absolutely not.
Okay, so, that the suggestion would be, why we're doing this, we might as well change that one to pick a name. I would call it whatever lane and get rid of the word Zimmer.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
if you want to send in suggestions, whatever, except for anything to do with Tony here or anyone, just make it something lane, okay?
Will the ball field's address be Pugsley or the New Zimmer? Do you know?
These guys already put Pugsley, this here, they don't own the road. We own the road, it'll still be our road, going to the county property. They're here and they're here at the ball fields.
But their address will be Pugsley?
Pugsley,
Okay.
yes.
And so, question on that, so for Pugsley, we're gonna still maintain Pugsley from
Pugsley's.
312 to the
Patterson.
Patterson line?
Yes. And by the way, that's going to change too, because they do propose to put gates up at where Barrett Road used to be, right outside. They're going to put a turnaround right here. So it's going to be,
It's right there, right?
okay, it's going to be a dead end from here to the Patterson line. That road, and we're going to look, and Mike told me he's
If
going
we
to.
abandon, we can go
He's
through an
gonna-
abandonment.
He's going to
proceeding
abandon the road,
yeah.
yes,
Abandoned from this little
roadbed
spot.
to the,
Yeah.
to the adjoining property owner.
That thing?
yeah. So should we wait to do that? How does that work?
I would wait until you have these projects built.
Who's doing, is the planning board make that determination? Or
Yes.
does?
It's coming up. It's being recommended.
Okay.
Okay.
And everyone, all sides, Patterson was very much in favor of dead ending the road. They were met today, as a matter of fact, with the ball field people, they're in favor of it. Everyone seems to be in favor of that.
Well,
And this is also a place where a lot of stuff.
you like history, Tony, but that was the route that they were gonna usually use initially use as the Fair Street bypass.
Was it? Yeah,
Do you
and
remember that?
they should have done it, makes sense.
Should have been done years ago,
Yeah.
but there
I'm
was,
surprised they would.
politically, it just never worked.
But history's repeating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait on that part, and we can also wait on the Zimmer one too, but
If you dead end the road there, then I have no problem with it.
it's gonna be dead ended.
Yeah.
And Mike looks to abandon it, so it won't matter much of anything,
If the planning board approves that.
if the planning board approves.
Well, I think the planning board will probably work with the highway superintendent's recommendation.
They've all
Certainly-
agreed on it.
Certainly the town
Patterson-
of Patterson loves it.
Yeah, Patterson was adamant that it happened, and they met today, and it seems to be like a done deal. They have no problem doing it. I think it's wrong, but, you know,
Yes, so do I.
if I was Patterson, I'd want that, because those people going to the ball field, they're gonna be building a hotel right up the road there, it'd be a perfect location to get them there, but now they gotta take a long way around.
I was under the impression that Patterson either wanted it closed or
That's being
improved.
closed, by putting a cul-de-sac there, it'll be closed.
Closed or improved is what.
Well, they don't want to improve their end.
Right. And which is, I think is,
And they're
Odd
concerned,
if
they're
they're-
concerned that it's going to become a cut-through for truck traffic.
It can't, it's,
there's a height.
the
Well, that's one of
84
the
is
things they
1210, but
approved, the
13.6
approval-
trucks can't get
Let me
through.
finish. One of the things that they've done in the approvals of logistics is that they have to have what do you call it, tattletale or
Yeah,
telltale?
height bar. Well, I mean, it's, yeah,
Height bar, so that, because trucks over a certain height, if they were to go out that way, they would get jammed under a bridge. So I'm told.
Okay. Any rate, I have something definitely coming back maybe for the next meeting, so we did accomplish a few things this evening and had good discussion. Okay. Next item on the agenda, now we're going to go to the regular portion of the meeting. I make so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I waive the reading of the correspondence.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Approve of the voucher list, $958,024.03. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Setting of meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, and Thursday, November 17th, 2022. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, resolution, real estate broker agent sales contract approval, Century 21 Alliance Realty Group. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby accepts the proposal of Century 21 Alliance Realty Group dated October 15, 2022, and hereby authorizes the town supervisor to execute any and all contracts, memoranda of agreement, or other documents necessary to employ the services of Century 21 Alliance Realty Group in a manner and form as may be approved by the town attorney, and be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, supervisor's report. We're really heading down the stretch now. Everything seems to be in fairly good working order, but the economy is really taking a fairly good hit. Like I told you the last meeting with the sales of homes, they kind of like are starting to dry up. The interest rates I'm hearing are up, I don't know, I heard 5 or 6%.
7.5,
7.5?
7.3.
And what were they about 6 months ago? 0.5%?
I got 3. I have 2.5.
2.5? I mean, things are not looking good at this time, but fortunately, we had a good year, and next year is going to be even more questionable, unfortunately. And other than that, any questions?
No, sir.
Recognition of the public. Town board members. Hearing none? I'll expect that. Anyone wish to close the meeting?
Make a motion to close tonight's meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.